I've got Roy Talahaftewa on the show today. This has been a long, hard road for us to get you on, isn't it?
Yes, it has been.
It's not that you didn't want to do it, it's just that life gets in the way sometimes, right?
Yes, it is. And yeah, pretty much. And of all the things that I'm involved up on the reservation too. And time-wise was not working out for me to
Right.
get down to Tucson,
Right.
so to me it was kind of like travel.
I guess I could have gone up to Palaka, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know how we would set it up, but I'm sure that could have worked too. But I knew at one point or time we were going to get it, so I figured if I got you in Santa Fe, I knew you'd be here.
Yeah. And I think this really worked out well, you know. Yeah.
And we were just talking about, I think this is interesting for people watching it. So Roy's won the Best of Show at Indian Market before, and what year was that?
That was in 86.
Yeah, 86, right?
Uh-huh.
So this is the first time since 210 that you've put anything?
Yes.
That you actually put something in the market for judging.
Yeah.
So, and what was that? Why did you decide to do that? Was there a reason you go, okay?
Well, I think time-wise, it was like where they had changed the different dates, like even now, they did all the artisans to submit their work early on in a week, and which kind of, I guess, doesn't give the artisans time to be able to finish the things, especially if you're going to make a long travel, and so it takes away from your time having to come and submit something like that, and you don't want to go back home and try to do some more work,
Right.
So it's just, to me, it was just a wasted time, like I could have been doing something else,
right? Making a bracelet.
Yeah.
Or doing something with your family and all the other.
Yeah. So especially now that they're, around this time we have different ceremonies too.
Yeah.
So we kind of have to work our schedule around those kind of things sometimes,
Yeah, and I know those always take priority.
Yeah.
We've even had those things like you were going to come and it's like, oh, well, something.
Yeah.
We got a dance that we have to do.
Yeah. So that's always in the way too sometimes.
And then you were telling me just before the thing about Museum of Northern Arizona, because you won Best of Show there this year, right?
Yeah.
And tell people what happened on that one. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was a couple months ago. But usually, like around that time, I would teach at Idlewild School of Arts in California, and but I was telling my wife about this thing that I wanted to go over to the Northern Arizona Museum show, because I haven't done that in so many years too. Just like going to the herd, And because of my priorities, having to ceremonial purposes and stuff like that, so I haven't gone to the Northern Arizona Museum for probably almost 15 years. So I wanted to go back there. I had one previous years. I think it was the Charles Lomo Excellence of Arts Award there, and then so after that, I never went back again. But this time when I told my wife I wanted to go there, so we went ahead and changed our schedule to go to Idlewild instead, So when I was getting ready, I just was working on a bracelet, but I was just pressed for time too, trying to get things done, And so I was telling my wife, I said, well, the day came, that Friday was coming, and I was telling her, I said, I don't think I can finish this piece. I want to submit it, but, it's okay. It's all right. No big deal, but, we'll try to get it there.
Right.
And that morning came, and I told my wife, I said, Becky, we're not going to make it. I'm not going to go,
Right.
So we'll make the show, but we won't submit anything.
Right.
So she kind of looked at me and said, yes, we are. We're going to make it, like she was determined, said, we got time to make it over there, like I was looking at the time and said, I don't know about that, But so anyway, we went ahead and took off, and we barely made it by 10 minutes. 10 minutes we went, and and they were just about to close and say, "Oh, you made it!" They were all kind of telling me and everything. So this one lady came and was helping me out, and
Mm-hmm.
I submitted a couple of pieces there. The bracelet, which was titled Inner Beauty with the butterfly, and then
Mhm.
it had all the designs on the inside part of the
Right.
bracelet too. And then one was a necklace that I did that took um, honorable mention or third place, something like
Right.
that. But
Did you give your wife all the ribbons?
yeah, I said, you just chew on this one. I'll take this one.
Yeah, that's funny. So that had to be great. You won it, you just couldn't believe it. Probably.
Yeah, I went to go pick up my stuff, because they were telling us that Friday evening, come back and pick up your stuff,
Mhm.
So little did I know, and wasn't really expecting to, win anything, but so because this became an open show, just like here in Santa Fe.
Right.
That museum became an open show, so there's other tribes
Right.
that came.
Yeah.
So there was a lot more
Yeah.
artisans.
'Cause it used to be just Hopi, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
used to be just Hopi, and so I wasn't really totally, thinking of, winning anything,
Right.
So we went over, and I went that evening to go back and pick up my stuff, and so I was telling the ladies that I got my receipt here. I just came to pick up my, my pieces, like you guys said. And she looked at me and she goes like, "Well, I don't think you can take it now, Like, why? And didn't you know, or did they call you or anything?" I said, "No, I didn't receive a call or anything." I said, "Well, you're the best of show winner." And I go like, "What? What? That can't be, like." I just like, I couldn't believe it, and I just like, so you just leave your stuff here, because both of your pieces won an award,
Wow.
So I said, okay, so can I go over and look, said, yeah, there's people in there looking at some pieces, So we did. I went in there because Becky didn't come with me. So
Right.
I went in there and I looked at it. Wow, I said, I couldn't believe it. But there was a lot of good art there.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's a lot of good art. And I just couldn't believe that little piece won something, like that. And it was a great honor because, it's been a while since I've ever, been able to win a bigger award again,
Right.
in a long time. So,
Well, you won the biggest award there is at Santa Fe.
Yeah.
That's best of show you won.
yeah,
Which
yeah.
is like that's the thing that is,
Yeah, I think that is one of the, if you accomplish that to
Right.
win something like that, you got to be proud of that,
Yeah.
for making it up to that point of having to compete with so many artisans, it's
Thousand.
yeah, and it's a big deal, and I think that's the thing that I always say that I guess Oswaya for having for me to be up in that category of being one of the good artists.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really say the best artist, but I would say good artist, because
I'd say great artist. You may not say it, but just think about it. How many in the last 40 years jewelers have won Best of Show? Probably not many.
Yeah, and going back to the herd, that was like, I think I was just into jewelry making about 4 years, I believe. And that was my first time that I won Best of Show there.
Yeah, because he won Best of Show at the Herd
at the
show
Herd.
first. Yeah, that's the trifecta now. And then, what
Yeah.
year was that you won?
That one was in 81.
So 81. So you'd only been making art for jewelry for a very short period of time.
Yeah,
It was 4 years.
yeah, and then I won the Best of Show there, and then when we came to this market here with my mother, I usually take my mother here, bring my mother, and that was in '86 is when it was so funny that before I even won that, even before I had made that piece
For 86.
for 86,
Yes.
I was living in Phoenix at the time. And, when I started, I was trying to figure out what should I make for market this year,
Mm-hmm.
And I knew there was a buckle there, but the outside dimensions of it, I could see the pattern and the design of what was there.
In your
But
mind.
in my mind, but right in the center was just, it was kind of really blurred. I didn't really see what was there. What is going to be there, And I just looked at it, and finally I just started drawing, and started making the kachina and whatnot. I said, oh, well, maybe I'll just do a whole series of each ceremony, each different kachina, and make it real three-dimensional, So I started drawing that, but before that, I had a dream that there was a table like that, like a small table there, but there was just rainbows of colors of ribbons, that was decorating that table. But I didn't see what was there. What's there, But it was just an indication of, I guess, what was
to come.
Yeah. And I
How long before when did you have that dream? Before you even started?
This was like about a week before.
You made it.
Before I made it. Yeah.
Even before
I made it.
The belt.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was when I already had a dream about that, but I never really, I told my wife about it, It was about maybe a week or two later. I told her, I had a dream about this thing, but I don't know what it's pertaining to, and so later on, then I had to go up and pick up my mother on the reservation, and then we came, and when I submitted that, at that time they didn't really, there was no cell phone, so they
Right.
couldn't contact us or anything. You have to find out to get there, then you'll find out
Right.
if what you received, And so I went in, not knowing, just to pick up my stuff. And one of my friends from Colorado was volunteering there, and he came up to me with his wife, and they just gave me a big hug, and said, "Congratulations." And I go like, "What?" He said, "You won the grand prize, Roy. Don't you know?" I said, "No, I don't know anything." "Well, I guess I gotta see it to believe it, And prior to that, there was a gentleman that came to me already, and they used to live in Pasadena. I'm not sure if you know them, Robert Bowser and Joanne Bowser.
Oh yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're actually the ones that bought the belt.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I'm sure they still have it.
Yeah,
Unless they donated it to a museum.
Yeah, it's funny because he was the first one that came to me, and he told me, like, "I want your belt," and I go like, "What?" And then there was another guy that came, and he said, "Are you Roy?" He said, "Yeah." I really like your belt. Can I get you? And I said, "Well, like Robert here, my friend was telling me about it. So what is it? Like that's when Robert told me that, like you did won a grand prize, didn't you?" He said, "Well, I guess I gotta go pick it up to see for myself, And so I did, and like, wow, I couldn't believe it when my other friends came and told me about it, like, geez, that was like a big surprise.
Oh, it had to be a whirlwind. Now everybody wants to meet you,
Yeah.
talk to you,
Yeah.
take photos.
It was crazy.
Yeah, on
It was crazy.
cover of the Santa Fe Inn. And so were there 1 million people in line that morning?
It was crazy. I actually was probably the best market then. But even after that, it was still good. And all the people that had seen the belt wanted either a bolo a buckle,
Yes,
you know,
of
individual
kachinas.
piece of kachinas like
Yeah.
that. So for a while, maybe almost like 10 years, I was just making some of those for different people. You know?
Yes. Yeah,
So
those are what we
just
called your
order.
kachina years.
Yeah, yeah.
For 10 years, from
Yeah.
86 to 96.
But I think that's the reason why I kind of took myself away from not doing that so much anymore with the kachinas.
Because you've done it.
Yeah, uh-huh. But I think the thing is that I try to make things look almost realistic, I guess, if I'm saying it right, but you know, just the detail work of some of the pieces that I can try to do, you know, to make it look more real, you know.
Mhm.
And I know it's kind of like really hard for me to just not put in the details and you know, because I've learned overlay where it's just real subtle,
Mhm.
you know, subtle piece, just nice designs and everything. No, you know, you don't see no three-dimensional, you know, concept to it sometimes, you know. So I guess in my um, term of having to make it look realistic like that, I wanted more detail and make it more three-dimensional,
Mhm.
three-dimensional as much as I can, you know. So I always have to try to figure out when I'm drawing something, where's the light hitting, where's you know, like the different angles that I
Like
try to-
sculpture,
Yeah, uh-huh.
because it is.
So I try to make it like that.
Do you draw out all the pieces, like the significant pieces? Do you draw it out first on paper?
Everything that I do, once in a while I do on the paper, but majority of the time is directly on the silver.
On the silver.
Yeah, yeah. So I just draw all my designs and everything on the silver, scribe it in and whatnot, and you know.
And as you're doing that, does it just kind of flow to you as you're starting it, or do you have a sense, okay, this is kind of what I want, let's just see where this silver takes me?
Yeah, in a way. And then you know, there's times that I had some pieces that you know that I've started, and I just feel that in my heart that when something is meant to be made, it's gonna happen. It's gonna become a reality, and I've had some pieces laying around for over 10 years before I finally finish it. You know, and it just stays. I mean, it just don't really appear to me that it's ready to be done or made. You know, and it doesn't want to come to life yet till it's got its own time.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel about.
Yeah,
Some of my
they have their
pieces.
own mana, spirit, whatever you want to say, I think, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel
Yeah.
that way strongly about a lot
Yeah,
of things.
and I think anything that you think of it like that, it's true that you know they got their own times of when things can happen, you know, and become reality, and that's just the same thing I feel about my work, you know, and so that's why I just you know, like when I was teaching classes out home, I try to tell my students, you know, my younger students, you know, don't just draw just to draw it. Bring it from here. Think about it, you know, because actually what you're doing is you're putting life into something that's gonna be for a long time. It's gonna be there. You're giving it that life and energy. Your energy should be coming from here to that piece, you know, and that way it's not so much about, I guess, money in a way to me, but it's about, you know, how people perceive my work. Because I know that when somebody really enjoys my work or really wants my work, there's people that just want to buy it to resell and
Right.
whatever, but there's others that want it for themselves personally, you know. Then I know that my piece is going to a good home, and it's going to be appreciated by that person and by that, you know.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about my work. I said that, and I guess that's the reason why I've always wanted to make things right. Try to make it right the first time. I'm not so perfect, I'm not perfect about, everything. I try to be, but it's a gift, and I feel that I owe that to, the greater spirits that given me this ability and the gift to work and to express their art as well as mine,
Yeah. Not just about you.
No, not just about me.
Yeah.
So some people, there's a lot of people, sometimes they tell me you're the master of, like Hopi or whatever.
I've said that.
And and I go like, I don't believe I am the master,
Yeah, no, I know. You said that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I just feel that it's the creator that is the master that gives me the ability to express that out, and whatnot, so, but it makes me look good.
It definitely makes you look good. Well, so tell me, where did you grow up exactly? You're from Palaka, right?
No, I'm actually from Shimopabi, from Second Mesa.
Second Mesa.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. My wife is from Palaka.
And that's where you live now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your Corn clan and
My main clan is Water Clan.
Water Clan, yeah.
Corn Clan, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and I was brought up on Hopi, all my entire years, and
Was your father, was he a craftsman or an artist?
he was mainly a carpenter, but he did some other crafts, like did some weaving and stuff like that. And my mother also did basketry and stuff like that, and she used to demonstrate about, like at the herd, they used to have those demonstrations going on there and at Gallup and also at the Northern Arizona Museum.
And you probably went down with her on some occasions, right?
And some of them,
Yeah.
some of them I did, yeah. So, but none of really, just my brother was the one that was doing some silver work at the time, and I learned a few things from him, and but I went to school here as well after finishing from high school in Sherman, Riverside.
Yeah, you went to IAI, right?
Yeah, and I spent some time there. I didn't really finish from there, but really I wasn't. I was actually studying curator, but also doing some fine art, just painting and stuff like that. Photography I did a little bit, but I never touched jewelry. I never took jewelry there.
But you were always creative, right?
But I've always been creative.
Yes.
I've always, draw, paint, and things like that.
When did you know that was going to be your calling? When you were like grade school, middle school?
I think it was grade school.
Yeah.
Mainly, and I always go back to my fourth grade year when I first won the first ribbon ever at the Northern Arizona Museum when they used to send the students artwork there.
And was it a painting or a drawing?
It was a painting that I did. And you know what it was about? It was actually a mountain scenery with a cabin.
Yeah.
It was a cabin out in the middle of nowhere, and maybe a few trees here, and that was it.
And you're like 10 years or 11 years old, you're in fourth grade?
Yeah, and it wasn't pertaining to any of my, Hopi life or anything like that.
But that must have really propelled you when you won that.
Yeah.
And gave you that sense, okay, I'm an artist, right?
Yeah, it did. And I think that was probably one of the good feelings about art, But I guess I've always had it in me.
Yeah.
To do art, I don't really think I could work for anybody, I mean, I could work for somebody, but under my own conditions of having not to be told, to do this and do that and whatnot.
Yeah, you've been your own boss for your entire life.
Yeah, so it's just like something I just, never could probably deal with, and but I've always been, brought back to my art all the time. That was the main thing, and I don't think there was any limitations to art. I mean, that's the way I feel about it. Just like I tell my students, like don't ever get into this comfort zone of trying to do the same thing over and over
Mhm.
again. There's, you can go on, move on with that and make something different. Go out there and explore. Go to museums, go to galleries, see what people are doing, what's new out there. That's where you're going to see all these inspiration of
Right.
having to be able to do something different with your life. If you're not going to do, a job or go be working somewhere, like there's so many things that you can, do, and a lot of inspiration out there.
So much.
Yeah, and it's not just having to go there, but just look outside.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all these
Nature.
things come. Yeah,
Right.
that's where it comes. I said so,
And
but
did you graduate from Hopi High School?
yeah. I mean, no, not Hopi High School, but from Sherman down in Riverside.
In Riverside.
Uh-huh.
So tell me about that. When did you go there?
I went from my junior high school year.
Mm-hmm.
Went there and.
Were you forced to go there? Was that something you got?
No, it was actually at the time. It's a boarding school, but they just give us choices whether we want to go on to school, educate. I mean, go to different schools. They usually have like the Indian school in Phoenix,
Mm-hmm.
the Phoenix
Yeah.
Indian High School,
Right.
and then they got Sherman, and then they got Stewart, Nevada.
But those are all Indian schools, right?
Those were all boarding schools that people would make a choice to go either place, to go to school.
Right, including where you went.
Yeah, yeah.
But you did have a choice. You could have not.
I could have not, yeah.
But then just you wouldn't get any education.
That's right, yeah, yeah.
That must have been a hard decision to make, to go, you're in junior high now and you're going to be shipped away from Hopi where you spent your entire life, right?
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, in a way, you kind of get this feeling of loneliness, but then you have other people, a lot of your friends that will go too, so it's not really so bad,
Mm-hmm.
The only problem there sometimes is that if you just hang out with the wrong crowd, and get yourself in trouble.
Mhm.
But if you want to keep to your studies and whatnot, then
Right.
it's a choice you got to make.
And it wasn't just Hopi there, right?
Yes. Well, no, it was other tribes.
Yeah,
from
right.
all over. Yeah.
And I'm sure there was some tension there at times too.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, and I graduated midterm from there. When I went back on my senior year to graduate with my the second semester that I went back, my counselor called me in and had told me about the IAIA, and I told him, I said, well, I don't know. I never really heard about it, and so I would like some information on it,
Mm-hmm.
and just looking at what information that my counselor got from there, I had, at the time, Charles Loma was involved there,
Mm-hmm.
and his wife, Attili, who was my
Mhm.
aunt,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was also Ellen Hauser, was an
Mhm.
instructor there during those times,
What year was this?
This was around 75.
75.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, about 75. And
Was Fritz Scholder there still?
he was in and out.
Yeah.
Because I met him during those times that when he was in and out over there. I don't know if he was teaching there or not, but
Yeah, he did
You know.
teach there, but I don't know if he was doing it in 75.
yeah.
Or,
But I met him there too,
Mhm.
So it was kind of like, wow, like
was T.C. Cannon there too?
T.C. Cannon was there.
Did you ever meet T.C.?
Yeah, I did. I met those guys at that time,
Yeah.
and so that's why I was like, and where I was having my fine arts,
Right.
right next door is where Alan Hauser used to have his studio. Yeah, and I would just go from there over to his studio and
Right.
watch him do his sculpture, and he's a really nice man.
He's so nice. He was so
yeah.
nice.
Yeah, and he's kind of, sometimes he could be just so quiet. It's just like, you know, you don't bother him, he just concentrates
Right.
on it. Then he'll say something, you know, out of the blue and whatnot. But
Well,
yeah, he's a pretty cool guy.
that's what I've heard from everybody, that
Yeah.
same statement.
Yeah.
Did you get to spend any time with TC? Because he died so young. It's just trying to get a sense of what kind
No,
of person.
I didn't.
Yeah.
No. I think I've just only met him like a couple times
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Did you know who he was as far as this is an important guy or not?
No, I
You're
never
just a
did.
kid
Yeah,
at a-
yeah. Especially where, you know, the school that I went to, they never really had a art curriculum there.
Yes.
So basically, everything was just arts and craft. If you want to go and do things like some people will go do beadwork and what, it's not really anything where you take classes and stuff like that, you know. So it wasn't really any classes that you could take at high school like that. But I've always, like I said, I've always been inclined with my artwork. So I think I just, after seeing all that information from there, I just kind of like, well, maybe this will help me out too in a different, you know, venue. You know? So I decided to just go ahead and go there. And actually, my aunt Ateli, Charles Loma's wife at the time, she was, he wasn't, I don't think they were married at the time, because I think she was with somebody else at the time. But she had told me about that curator, you know, maybe you should look into that, you know. And it sounded pretty interesting, really interesting. So I decided to take that. And there was a lady, I believe she was San Domingo. Her name was Margaret. She's the one that was teaching the museum subjects, you know. And so we were also even restoring old paintings and rugs, and we have to be specific about the materials that's being used, you know, and things like that. I mean, it was pretty interesting, you know, that when I got into that, and the studies were really good, you know.
And did you think, well, that could be my path?
Yeah. I've always wanted to, you know, like that. I think that was something that I wanted to do, you know, and work at a museum like that, but it didn't happen, you know.
Well, you get to work at a museum, but you show up now with the best of show, and you know, so you do in a weird way. People are handling your material, their curators putting it in the museum.
Yeah.
And so you stayed there for about a year or so?
A year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, a year and a half I stayed there, went back.
And I would think that seeing all these creative people, you know, that you thought, you know, I'm a really great, or I don't know if you'd say great, you wouldn't, because you wouldn't, but you would say I have the capabilities to draw and paint. Maybe that's a path for me too. I would assume that, just seeing all the other people.
Yeah, I think, and that's where I was, actually when I first went back home, I did a lot of my paintings. But living in a rural area, it wasn't really a place to sell anything like that, and you don't really know where to sell it.
Sure.
You know, as far as galleries or anything like that. Yeah.
Right.
So it's not really something that, I guess I kind of got stuck there with having to do these paintings and not even do anything with it, you know. So, and at that time, they had a co-op, you know, up on the reservation, the Guild Co-op.
Yeah, the Hopi Guild.
And so I had a summer job through JTPA, which is a youth program. So I was being a custodian there, and Fred Caboti was at the time running that, you know. So he was telling me, you know, like, what if there's some tin and, you know, metal, that tin metal outside, get some of that. You know, I'll give you some saw blades, you know, and a saw. You can practice doing that, you know. So he was the one that kind of encouraged me to do that, you know. So after after our summer jobs were done, then I went back, and so I started practicing that and just watching other artisans there, older guys that were doing things like that there.
Do you know if Fred ever made jewelry? I know he taught jewelry, and I know he was a great painter. Do you know if he?
I don't think he really did any jewelry,
Yeah.
but he was more of an instructor of having how to design.
He was really good at that. And of course, Michael.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got both Michaels on today. He was a
Yeah.
clan brother, right?
Yeah. Michael's a clan brother. Yeah. So, but Fred kind of got me encouraged into doing it, and so I was there for a year. I started to do some jewelry there, which was not really, just from the starting, so it wasn't anything good, and till I moved down to Phoenix, and my brother at the time was working with a shop there called Shades of the West.
Mm. This is like 76 or so?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was telling me about, you want to come with me, to work? I'll introduce you to my, the owner there,
And what was he doing there?
He was doing some silversmithing for the guy. And so we talked with him, and he was asking me, so what do you do? Like, oh, well, right now I'm just looking for a job, down here. Mm-hmm. And so I said, would you like to, work with me? And, well, I don't know what, I'm not really that good at, jewelry or anything, but, if you give me a chance, I can, maybe be productive in some ways,
Right.
So he did. He gave me a chance, and I started working, there. And
you remember his name?
Yeah, Anselm Bischoff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so I started working there, and then that's when I really started to go to museums and galleries, and that's where that inspiration came. Like, wow, I can try to do this. Like, and so I started doing some pieces, and there was a couple of my Navajo friends that were with me too at that time, El Nez,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one was Leonard Schmalley,
Mm-hmm.
and we were all together, and Anselm was asking us, do you think we should send some of your pieces over to the Gallup ceremony?
Mm.
We should just send all these stuff, like, we didn't know what he was going to send over.
Right.
But he sent a bunch of my jewelry, L's and Leonard's, and we basically cleaned that place there that time.
You want everything? That was for Gallup International.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was that like 70?
77, somewhere like that, or something.
And were you working as bench silversmiths for him as well?
Yeah.
So he would send it over. He got all the prize ribbons, and then they came back to the store. And what did you think when you won all that stuff? That had to be very
it was
enlightening, at the very least.
Yeah, because you least expect something like that to happen,
Right.
And but El was the one that with the bigger awards,
Yes.
like best of classification or whatever,
Yeah.
And but overall it was really good. He was all excited about it.
Yeah.
And I think I was still working under him when we sent that piece. It's called the Seven Maidens. It was a tufa cast with a shadow box like that I first started to get into tufa casting. And that's when because El Nez was doing all the tufa casting at the time. But
Did he help teach you on that?
He didn't really help me, but because I've always asked, where do you get these stones?
Yes.
But he would never tell me.
Yeah.
It was so secret, like
trade secrets
so
too.
yeah, and but I just watch him.
Yeah.
And so I finally bought some. I think at that time I ran into Rick Charlie, and he was the one that told me about Lenning's silver supply store in Phoenix,
Mm-hmm.
and he was telling me, he said, they have some tufas there. I sell my tufa to them, so you can go there and buy it. So I went there, and that's where I purchased my first tufa stones there.
Which is volcanic
Yeah.
stone, for those
Yeah.
who don't know what tufa is.
Yeah. And so when I bought those, then I started practicing at home, just experimenting with it.
Right.
And so then I started combining the overlay with the tufa casting, which was not really done by anybody at
Yeah,
that
I wouldn't
time.
think so.
Yeah.
Not that early on.
Yeah, and then in '81 I did that, the 7 mains. So I casted all the heads of this necklace,
Mm-hmm.
and the body part was all hollow form box, shape.
Mm-hmm.
And they had different colored leathers and matching clasp in the back, and they were all as a set that we submitted to enter there at the herd. And so we won the Bessa show there under Anselm Bischoffs, and so I went over to the when they were presenting the awards and whatnot. I went there, and it also won Best of Hopi Jewelry, because during that time they had those categories
Mhm.
too. So it won Best of Hopi Jewelry as well too, and and so this lady came up to me and said, "Would you just sell the one piece out of that selection of pendants?"
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in just one.
Right.
And so these others wanted to come, and they want to buy just the one piece, But then Anselm was there and said, "No, we want to sell the whole thing as a set."
Yeah, it's best to show.
Yeah, because it also has a nice case that a friend of his made for it,
Right.
So since it was the whole set that took Best a show, he wants to sell it like that. So
That was the right call too.
yeah,
Not breaking him up.
yeah. So
And somebody stepped up and bought it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they came up and bought the
Uh-huh.
piece there.
Was that your biggest sale to date?
Yeah,
Value?
that was in value it was the biggest sale
Yeah.
at that time, And I never really thought that I would sell pieces, like more than what I sell it for now.
Right.
I always felt that 500 was the big
Right,
thing,
right.
So, and the first time that I've ever sold something for 900 it was like a water main that I did a 3-dimensional face, and whatnot. That was my very first one that I've done like that, and that one actually I didn't submit that in any show, but the person that I was showing at the time
Mm-hmm.
really liked it because it was a real 3-dimensional. The feathers and everything was all done out of silver, but it was a full scale 3-dimensional. The face is sticking out,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all silver, But yeah, and that was the first time that I've ever thought, wow, geez, how can somebody spend that kind of money?
That was 900.
Yeah.
What year was that? Do you remember?
That was back in, excuse me,
Uh-huh.
probably like about 83.
Yeah, 83. Yeah. So you hadn't been doing it that long, but you must have, because you knew Loloma. Your aunt was married to him. And you saw what he was getting. Did you ever talk to him and say, "How do you do that?"
No, I never. I've never really met Loma.
Yeah. Oh,
I
interesting.
never really met Loma,
Okay.
and I think the only time that I met Loma at the time is I had friends here in Santa Fe that were out there on Hopi, and they were gonna go up and see Charles too, and I had made a salako bowl, a 3-dimensional salako bowl,
Mm-hmm.
and he had gone up there, and so I followed them up there, and that was the only time that I met him at that time, but he wasn't doing any work or anything. I seen him in books and stuff,
Right.
but I just never really personally met him,
Yeah.
But so we didn't really have a conversation because he was more into Pahanas, talking to his customers or like them. So I stood around and then I
Yeah.
told my friends, I said, I'll be back home. Like I'm going back to the house, and
Right.
you guys can come by when you're done.
Right.
So
Yeah, he was interested in making
yeah,
sales.
yeah.
And you're just a young silversmith,
Yeah.
and he doesn't really.
But he was wearing my bolo at the time.
He was wearing your bolo.
Yeah, not Charles Loma, but
Oh.
my friend.
Oh, okay.
And he goes, "Who made that bolo again?" My friend was telling me, "Who made that bolo? That is a really striking bolo. That is really, like you." And he goes, "The guy that was here,
The guy-
my friend,
the guy you ignored.
right? Yeah,
That's so
that's his work,
And so when you
Wow.
won that award and you won Best of Show, you at some point you must have broken off from Bischoff and go, okay, I can do this more on my own, kind of thing.
Yeah, I did.
And when did that happen? How long after that?
I'm not too sure how long after that happened. Maybe, I think like maybe 83 or 84 is I think when I quit
Yeah.
working for him. And then I guess during that time, there was a Robert Dean Gallery who used to be in partnership with Gene Waddell.
Mm.
And Robert Dean used to have that gallery right on Main in Scottsdale. And I was just, like I said, going through galleries, see what people are doing. And I was there, and he came out and he was asking me, "Oh, you're Roy. You used to work down at Bishop's." And I said, "Yeah, I just quit, not too long ago. So how about you working for me?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I just kind of want to
Do my own.
Yeah, do my own, and then later on he goes like, "I'll give you my card. If you want to give me a call, I have a partner that maybe we can talk with you." So I didn't know that Gene was at the time, in partners with him on some things, So they talked to me, and so I started to do some work for them, and they were really nice, And then I started working for Gene, after Robert went up to Wyoming, moved up to Wyoming. Then I started working for Gene Waddell, me and Charles Sublette.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Sublette was a really good friend of mine.
Mm.
We worked really close together too. For Gene, we worked in in Tempe at the time.
And would you just make things for him and then he would buy them, or
Yeah.
kind of thing? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So basically, most of what you're producing, he was getting at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Charles Sublette as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We both were. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how long did that arrangement last?
I'm not really too sure, even though I had come to this show in '86 that when I won. I know I've worked for Gene for a while. It's been like maybe over 7 years, 8 years.
Right.
I think I worked for him at that time, and then I finally decided, well, I think I'm just ready to go on my own.
Right.
And just do what I want to do, and whatnot. And so I broke ties with him, but not completely,
No, I know.
not completely. And I just feel like one thing to me is different about, how I meet people. If I'm going to be working for somebody, it'd be like business. But if, friendship is always going to be the most important thing.
Yes, I agree.
And I feel that that's how it should be with anybody that I meet,
Yes.
like even with Gene, and I value Gene's friendship.
Absolutely.
He's a really nice guy, and got me through some hard times and whatnot too.
Right.
So like it's it's something that I don't think I would ever, say that, well, I got nothing to do with him. But he's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
So and that's just the way I look at it.
Yeah. It's probably why we do well together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
That's true. I value the friendship more than
Uh-huh.
I do anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's good, and I just feel that, just like yourself, you're there when I have something that you may need, or you may not need it all the time, but you were there all the time,
Yeah.
So that's what makes, our friendship even much more closer ties,
Mhm.
and that's what I like about it. And I'm not really a person that really expose myself way out there like
Right,
that.
I know.
I just I don't really deal with all different galleries
Right.
or all the museums or anything. I guess work with one person or somebody else, but not, a lot of it now is just commission basis,
Yeah.
too, some of it, and so it makes it much more worthwhile too, because it kind of makes me feel like I don't really need to rush myself on things,
Mhm.
and make it right, and not having to do production type of work,
Right.
and that's what makes me feel like I maybe to somebody else that's not really an accomplishment, but to me it is,
Yeah,
I
it
feel
definitely
that,
is.
I feel that it's worth my time to work like that,
Well, you can also create what you want,
Yeah.
at your own pace and whatever you want, and deal with whoever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the joy and what you hope as an artist. I think you're
Yeah.
looking for, right?
Yeah. Whether it's not really about having to be one of the richest guy out at this thing.
Right.
It's about the pleasure and the
Right.
the way I feel about it. It's just it's I guess it makes me feel more happier to make something nicely instead of dealing with having to do so many pieces all at once and whatnot. Just take my time at creating something nice. So, but like I said, I'm not a real expert. And
Oh, you're an expert.
and I just try to, and I, in a way, I guess I'm more critical at my work for myself.
Yeah, I'm sure that's
Yeah.
probably true.
Yeah.
That's because you're, very conscious of what you're doing.
Yeah.
You feel not only the creative part, I think, I may be putting words in your mouth, but the creative part, but you also feel the spiritual part too.
Mhm.
That is a combo, that you have two things
Yeah.
that you have to accomplish.
Yeah. Even now, I have a critic, my wife.
Yeah. Those are always good to have.
She'll look at it and she goes, Roy, maybe you need to do this. And I'm like, okay, but you're not buying it.
Oh yeah, no, I know that feeling. I show my wife a piece of jewelry. What do you think of this? She goes, oh yeah, we want that. We being her,
Yeah.
not the gallery.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay too.
Yeah.
So now you've been doing this as a silversmith basically since 1976, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And so you've learned a lot, you've seen a lot, you've gone through a lot,
Yeah.
not only just, as an artist, but as a human.
Mhm.
What would you tell the young silversmiths? I know you're teaching classes.
Mhm.
What would you tell them, the things that they need to try to do to accomplish their goals of being a silversmith?
Well, I think a lot of it has to be more confident of themselves.
Mm.
You really have to be confident of yourself to do something, and have and not be so hard and compare yourself to other artisans, because I think that's a downfall there. When you start comparing yourself to other artisans, you want to be like them and whatnot, and you don't feel that you're accomplishing that because of they're moving on all the time, doing something different, and you're still trying to catch up.
Right.
And then you have that consciousness of, what am I doing wrong? How come I'm not there?
Right.
You know, and you can't be hard on yourself like that. But I think sometimes too, I think it gets to a lot of artisans too when they start to win big awards and stuff like that. It gets to them, gets to their head. You know, like they're the only superior artist or whatever, you know.
Right.
But I always remind myself, I can't go there, because I'm not like that, you know. And that's why I always say I'm not the master.
I know you said that.
Yeah.
Even when I said it too, you go, no.
Yeah, so it's just something that the young artist has to really, you know, encourage themselves, look forward to doing what they want to make, what kind of choices they want to make in doing artwork, you know, because there's a lot of different things that you can do, but not to be afraid to go out and introduce themselves, you know, with their artwork. And because you know, like I tell them, you know, like, okay, that is your identity there. When you start to build something and you make things to a point where you're critical in yourself and making things right, eventually when you start to put those into competitive shows like this, people start to know who you are. Then later on, then people will say, okay, that's so-and-so's work. You know, that's your identity. That's where, I mean, even when people see my work, they don't know me by my face, because they only know what I can do in a way, or what they read about me. But, you know, that is our identity.
Yeah,
and
it is your face.
Yeah, and you're actually building a legend for yourself in a way that's what you're going to leave behind. You know, and so it's things that you have to think about. You know, it's always a hard road, you know, to get to where you want to be at.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you strive for it and keep your mentalities in the right path, you'll make it. You know, anybody can make it, but, you know, it's got to be self-discipline. You know, you got to be self-disciplined to do that. You know, so I try to do that, or tell my students about those kind of things, you know. And but it's not always just about the silversmith, but it's just about trying to educate them in what they need to do, or if that's what they want to do, you know, how do we go about it, you know.
Right. How to be a human
Yeah.
and do it correctly.
Yeah, and how to accept, you know, criticism.
Yeah, that's a hard
You
one.
know, and that's always a hard thing to deal with too, you
is.
know. So
And how do you deal with it? Ignore it?
you know,
That's what I do.
Yeah, there's times that I ignore it, and there's times that I have to look at it and think about it in a positive
Critical.
way.
Okay.
That I have to think, well, you know, I don't really have to really totally listen to that, but I can change that part of myself if I'm making that, you know, that kind of a wrong decision on something.
Then
So
ask your wife.
Yeah, yeah.
They'll tell you.
Yeah, and then just like the other day, I said, she was asking me about something, and I go, and I don't think that was right or something. Oh, was I the problem? And she just looked at me and laughed, and I go, no, you're not. But yeah. But,
So is there anything you want to say, or how people can find you and that kind of thing if they want to get jewelry? Other than at Medicine Man Gallery, how else can they get it?
well, I think in a way that it's well, they can find me on Instagram, you know, Roy Talahaftewa, and pretty much that's probably just my only social contact in a way,
Right.
you know, is Instagram.
Otherwise,
don't
go
know.
to Indian Market,
Or
show
go
up
to-
for that, or the herd, right?
Yeah.
And maybe Northern Arizona if you're
Mm-hmm.
not doing the Idlewild
Yeah.
teaching.
Teaching, yeah. And, I guess also just see what I do, which is all over internet.
Yeah. Or you can go to museums. Like I was at the Wheelwright and saw one of your pieces.
Yeah.
I didn't need to look at the nameplate to go, that's Roy Talahaftewa. I go, there's Roy's. There's Roy. There's two pieces actually.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's good that, like yourself, having to do this in a way for me, because this will be beneficial in a way, when people see
It's a
it
record.
and whatnot.
It's a record of your life and what you've done, and your
Yeah.
accomplishments and the struggles and all the things that, your philosophies, which is the same as your silver and your art. It is who you are. It comes from the stomach, it comes from the heart, it comes from the head, but it's
Yeah.
all one.
Yeah.
I clearly see that. I saw it from the very first time I ever saw your work. It's like, oh, and I said, oh, there's a master. Yeah.
But I think at the time that you meet so many people,
Of course.
and I just like, who was Mark?
Yeah, sure. No, exactly. Shanta
like,
Begay said the same thing.
Yeah, and then you made contact with me again,
Yes.
so like you just bump into different people, and there's like other people that I've met, that I've never really dealt with. But I gotta tell you one thing, since I guess this person, I guess I won't name the person, but in a way, years ago when I was first starting out, there was a gallery in Scottsdale, and I had my small trinket pieces or whatever, trying to sell to make money for my family, at the time, and so I sold a couple of things at different places, and I went to this gallery, and I know that it was a nice gallery, and I was talking there to the owner and whatnot, and I asked him, I said, would you be interested in some of my work, or like I have a few pieces, if you'd like to see it. I said, he didn't really respond right away, Then he finally said, would you like to see it? And he said, yeah, I guess I'll see it. So I showed it to him, like, oh, okay, well, I don't think I need these right now, I don't know, it's just, and it kind of made me feel bad.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
Like,
I have no doubt.
like I didn't know what to say to him, like, okay, so well, maybe next time when you get better, you can come back. And I said, so I didn't say anything. I just like kind of got my stuff and, I walked out.
Right.
Years later, and I think that's when I had won Best of Show here.
Mm-hmm.
He came up to me, and I remember him clearly.
Oh, I bet.
So so he came up to me and he goes like, hey, Roy, would you like to do some work for me? Would you like to do some work for me? I'm interested in your work if you want. And said, you got some, and in fact, I can, maybe I purchase a couple at wholesale, And I just looked at him and, like, yeah, I go, well, I'm not good enough for you. You gotta be kidding me if you want to buy something. I'm not good enough for you. And he looked at me and, like, and he probably never even knew that was coming,
Yeah.
And he just walked away.
Yeah.
And I just like, I don't know, like, I think that was a bad approach at that time,
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand when people don't treat everybody equal. Take the time. That's kind of the responsibility of dealers, And I'm sure I've done things that I shouldn't have done as well as I could have. But I always try to take the time.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a short minute or whatever, and and definitely not dish the artist because you're creating,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's a
Yeah.
great example of what can and should happen when somebody does something that way, that it should come back to get you.
Yeah.
It's karma, whatever.
Yeah.
He didn't give you good karma, he gave you no karma.
And that's basically another thing that I always tell my students about, like, yeah, you're going to bump into walls like that
Yeah.
on your way.
Yeah, maybe a lot of them.
Yeah, and it's a hard thing to swallow.
Very humbling.
When somebody says something like that to you, like that criticism is going to stay with you for a while.
Yeah, even after you win Best of Show.
Yeah, and then just like even when I was still working at the guild shop, one of the guys there, older guy, knew I went to school at IAIA.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
I think at the time he just kind of, it came up sarcastically, and I was polishing some of my small pieces and whatnot. And then he came up from behind me and was telling me, and said, he said, you're finally getting your stuff done, Yeah, I said. And then he started calling out the others, and, hey, you guys all come around here. This guy went to art school. He'll teach you guys a thing or two, He studied all that, so he should be able to teach us how to do, do it the right way.
Mm.
And I go like, I didn't say nothing, like it just kind of like, well, no, I'm not here to teach, I'm learning from you guys, And that one was with me for a while.
Yeah, I bet.
And he also used to show here. He passed on, but he used to show here too. And that was the time when I won Best of Show. He came to my booth, and he was standing there looking at me, and said, didn't really say too much, Didn't congratulate me or anything or
Right.
whatever, Just a small talk and kind of like hesitantly looking at my piece, And it's that's a really nice piece. He goes like that. And I told him, son, I can teach you now.
Did he know the reference?
Yeah,
he did?
Yeah.
Mm.
He said, now I can teach you. Now, if you like it, then I can teach you how to do it.
What did he say?
He didn't say nothing.
bet he
His face just kind of got red, and he knew right away.
Yeah.
He knew right away. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's some of these things that like I experiment with. I mean, not experiment, but had learned from being criticized by some of these things, and that's why I guess I don't really like to go out and like be showing people all the time or whatever, or I don't really talk about my work that much like that, I just create it, but I always kept my door open to whoever wants to learn something,
Yeah.
and I'll show them,
Yeah.
So, and that's why my mother at the time when I started my classes, I said, maybe you should wait on that. And I go, wait on what? Don't be, like going out there, giving your knowledge of how to do this and how to do silver work and, your artwork. You should keep that to yourself yet for a while till you're ready. And said, well, I don't know when I'm going to be ready. I said, and the reason why I said that, I told my mom, is that, I may not be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, why not pass it on?
Right.
When you have the chance to do it and have somebody else to benefit from it, or if any, then, I wouldn't mind that, because, we're not promised a date when we're going to be,
Right.
here or not.
Right.
So,
That may be your legacy as much as anything.
yeah.
Helping other people.
So I just told her that and said, well, I guess you're right, and so after that, he just, he stood behind me and supported my efforts of doing that. And so I actually, in her honor, I named my project under her, meaning Sos Donatya, meaning grandmother's dream. You know, so my project was grandmother's dream at the time, that when I was teaching, you know. So even though she kind of
Said no.
yeah, but then I felt that, you know, being supportive in that way gave me that opportunity to at least recognize her as being one of the, you know, the givers, you know, as a caretaker of me, you know.
Right.
So.
And she allowed you to think and go, okay, I need to think about this and be introspective. And your introspection was, I'm not around forever, maybe not tomorrow. Let me do this is what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. It just probably helped solidify, even though maybe she didn't mean it in that way. It did help you solidify that this is the right path.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, I don't think she really meant it that way. I think she just wants, you know, there's certain things that you have to kind of keep to yourself for a while.
Sure, I get
you
it.
know, and there's other times that you just have to let go and, you know, have it flourish somewhere else, you know.
Right.
So that's what I meant by telling him, you know, like I may not be here tomorrow to do this, you know.
Yeah.
So just kind of, I guess in a way, it gave me the pleasure of having to try to teach others, you know. So yeah.
So how's your garden? How's the corn? Have you gotten enough rain up there to have?
It's been raining.
Yeah.
It's doing a lot better. So I've been kind of eating from my squash and stuff, but my corn is not quite ready yet. They're not quite ready yet, and it's just kind of weird this year that all the plants were not coming up the same. You know, some are taller and some are you know, kind of small, and you know, like, what's going on here? You know, but we've been getting some good moisture.
Yeah, good.
In fact, last night it rained again. You know. And so it's been doing good. And I forgot to go out there now because my zucchinis are getting so big. I was telling my wife's sister, I said, you better go out there and get some of that zucchini because they're getting huge. There's one that was about this big on there.
Yeah,
you know, like,
right.
And said, take it over to your sisters. You guys make something out of it.
I was like, I'm up here working.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else you want to say before I conclude?
Not really. I just want to say that I really do appreciate, you know, having you to be around, being a good friend.
Thank you.
And you know, being supportive.
Yeah.
That's means a lot to me.
It's my honor.
Yeah, means a lot to me, and I know my wife.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roy Talahaftewa. I know you won't say it, but I will. Master Silversmith.
Thank you.
I can hardly wait to see what's out there at Indian Market in the next few days.
Yeah. Come by. And...
I'll see if I have a dream of ribbons. If I do, I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, since you're a big sponsor right now, I got to work for something. Maybe next year or following year.
Yeah, nothing would give me more pleasure than to see you one day. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time. I know you're very busy. You know, you've been running around doing stuff that you have to do for Indian Market. And and I'll let you go home and enjoy it. Well, you probably have to do the thing tonight, too. Isn't there something you're supposed to do even tonight?
No, not really. We're just going to get home, get to our room and get some rest.
Get some rest, yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't go to bed till like, I think 1 o'clock, and then we were up at 4 o'clock and 4:30, and we left Hopi at 5:30 this morning.
Oh my gosh! And this is like 4 p.m., folks. So he's been going all day long. Wow! Oh my God! Go get some sleep, Roy.
All right.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Yeah, thank
you so much.